Hey everyone, this is Kiana, your host of Q for Christ, and I wanted to just get on here first off to say thank you to everyone that has liked, shared, comment. I know I say this all the time, but it is something about making sure that you thank everybody because I don't want no one to think that don't appreciate what you do. I appreciate everything, even if you just look and glance at it. But I want you to leave feedback. I want you to leave comments so I can know that you've been here. So I just want to get on here. I want you to get ready. I am having an interview with such an incredible podcaster, someone that has impacted my life. And we are just sitting here discussing about the impacts of a father's love on your success. And it's just, amazing interview. And I want everyone to get ready for the message, get ready for just the talk. I want to be able to exchange. I am talking to Debōrah Faith Perry from the Exchange Place Podcast. So get ready, get your popcorn, whatever you need, so you can listen to the message. All right, I look for you in the comments. Okay, hey everyone, this is Kiana, your host of Q for Christ, and I want to say thank you to everyone that has liked, shared, comment, whatever you've done. I am so excited. I'm so happy. I'm so humbled that you would even give me your time of the day. I don't take it kindly about the things that God wants me to do. I don't take it kindly about being a vessel for God. I want to make sure that the word get out there. So today, I am so excited about this interview that I am just like jumping out of my skin, I believe. I have the privilege to have Miss Debōrah Faith Perry on here. I'm so excited. She is an owner and a host. She is the owner and host of TheXchange Place Podcast, and she's an author of the Roadmap to Podcasting, and she's also a creative director. All right, how are you, Miss Debōrah?
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I love it here. I love it here.
Thank you for coming. When I met you, I just felt like this strong connection with you. I don't know, like we probably exchanged a few words on the post, and it was like, oh my God, like I am going to talk to her one day. And it was so strong that even the words that when you told me I got it, I mean, it was just like a simple word, I think you said. And I was like, wow, that was just amazing to be able to feel someone that shared my same passion and that was able to say, you know what, you are going to do it and you got it. And so now look at us. I'm telling you, God is so good.
I love that about God. I love that God gives us what we need when we need it. And he doesn't always give us what we want or what we think we want. He always gives us what we need. And our biggest blessings literally walk into our lives on two legs. And yeah, so I'm grateful for you as well. I think for me, again, the exchange place, but everything for me is always an exchange. And I treat my life like that, if that makes sense. When interacting with people, I want to leave someone with something, and I always want to leave with something as well. I'm glad that my little bit of words or whatever interaction initially that we had, left you with something. Definitely.
Well, like I said, I really, really thank you for even just accepting it. You know what I'm saying? Accepting my friend request, basically, because
Listen, I'm a podcaster who loves people and podcasting.
Right. And to find somebody that share that same passion is just amazing within itself. So I just I'm excited. I'm excited. So we are on here today. We just want to kind of, like she say, exchange. You know what I'm saying?
Hey y'all. Hey y'all.
I just want people to know who Debōrah Faith is, because she, like I said, you impacted me. And I really feel like you will be such an inspiration to my audience just as well. Because I know, like my dad used to tell me, if I cook something and it tastes good to me, it'll taste good to others. So that means if I, can meet somebody that inspire me, I know that you will inspire somebody else. So what I'm going to ask, I just want to know, I want people to know who Debōrah Faith Perry is. Could you just tell me a little bit about yourself?
I am. Who am I? This is layered, right? First of all, I am a child of God. I love the Lord. First and foremost, I am a mother of two amazing I got to stop saying boys because I have a 20-year-old and a 15-year-old. So
wow.
Some amazing young men. Mostly I'm a servant. I don't, you know what I mean? I feel like I finally found who Debōrah Faith is.
Right.
Outside of who people told me I was, outside of the boxes that I've kind of been tried to be squeezed into and kind of boxed into. And though my service right now looks like a podcast, it's so much bigger than that.
Right.
Like you mentioned, I'm an author. I'm working on my second book.
Ooh,
awesome. Yeah, it's going to be an affirmation journal, which will be really good. I will talk about that another time, but I'm someone who understands. I lost my sister when I was 12 years old. My sister died in my arms when I was 12 years old, and it changed the little girl. You know what I mean? That level of trauma. And I grew up in a household where we love God, and I know that God is amazing, but I also learned the hard way that they're just like, if I cut myself, you know what I mean? We would go to the hospital, and we both know because we work in healthcare.
Right.
We would go to the hospital, but what happens up here doesn't get processed as much. And as a 12-year-old child, I got taught very quickly after my sister had died in my arms that, we weren't having crucial conversations about trauma. We weren't having crucial conversations about what happens and what, mentally can happen to you. So I saw throughout my life, I saw the fruit of losing my sister. I learned how to look okay, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. And, my parents, I love them both. My dad's no longer here. My mom is, but, parents can only give you, and we can only give you the tools that we have. And they didn't have the tools, I feel like, back then to know what to do. And of course, my mom, as she said, we had a conversation probably about a couple of years back. She's like, well, I prayed for you. And of course, I love prayer and all of that, but faith without works is dead, right?
Yes.
There's a combination that needs to happen. So I created a platform that we talk about everything, man. We get to the root cause of things. I love to say that my space gives people the opportunity to see mirrors, people that they relate to, but also windows of where it's possible to go. And I always feel like I show my scars so people know it's possible to heal. And though I'm still healing and still going through the process, and once I think I done healed something, something else come up from my childhood or something else that I've buried down. But I'm so amazed to say that I'm not who I used to be, and I'm still becoming who God wants me to become. But I've come such a long way, and I just feel like I feel the level of responsibility to share that with other people, and let them know that it's possible. and just a safe space and transparent space to come and talk.
Right.
Yeah. So that's me. That's me.
Yeah,
In a
and the
nutshell.
thing about it, a lot of people don't have that. You know what I'm saying? We often take it, don't take it as serious as it is, because as women and as, I'm just gonna say it, as Black, the African Americans, we have always had to kind of take stuff and not really talk about stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like that trauma, we have to kind of like suppress it and just not really talk about it. And that's the main thing, is to be able to talk with someone. Working in the ER, I have a lot of patients that just come in and they just want to talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, people want to maybe label them as mental illness, but they just really need someone to talk to about the things that has happened to them in the past, that a lot of people say, what happens here stays here, and that's really not good, in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
I 100% agree. I always say that it's a dangerous kind of philosophy to give us, to kind of say, hey, what happens in this house stays in the house, because there's so many things that has happened in people's homes that you have pushed down. And I got tons of stories for that, but it affects you whether you know it or not. I'm almost against, I don't want to say against, but I do hate the label strong. I was always labeled strong. And because I was labeled strong, even as a child, I think, I'm an adult now. And even I remember when my youngest son turned 12, there was something about his age that reminded me of what happened to me at my age. And I could not, and again, this is not blame to my parents, but I couldn't even fathom that level of trauma, him experiencing it and doing nothing. My life quickly went back to kind of normal. And I learned a bad behavior, and that was how to look normal, how to look okay, how to perform better, how to, suck it up and keep on going. But at some point in your life, for the listeners that are listening, all that stuff comes up. And for me, it was really when I lost my dad in 2016 to cancer. And I had a tremendous amount of loss, and I just want to, share this with the guests. I lost my sister, my grandfather, who I was extremely close to, and my great grandmother probably in a year. And then my sister died in my arms, so that was already trauma. My grandfather, who was like, and I shared this with you before, I was saying my grandfather was always at every thing that I did. He was literally probably at that time a little bit more present than my dad, because my dad was always working. And then my great grandmother, who I also was very close to. So it was a lot of trauma, back-to-back trauma without a moment to heal. And I got into this kind of cycle, is what I'll call it, of just like, almost feeling like everybody went back to normal and I was still in pain. But because nobody else was in pain, I would talk almost to myself like, well, you're okay. You know what I mean? I have to be okay. Everybody else is okay. So what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Thinking something was wrong with me, which it was. And rightfully so. But I think so often we suppress, and especially in our culture, we suppress so much of trauma and things that happen in our homes, and never have conversations about it. And those conversations, that's why I say we have crucial conversations on the show, is like, we have the conversations that I wish someone would have had with me when I was 12 years old. I have the conversations with my sons that I wish my parents would have had with me. You know what I mean? And to be open and honest and transparent. And of course, it's not ever disrespectful. But we're human, right? And we have to leave room and space for that. God is amazing, but he does not give the same way he anointed the person to be the ER doctor, the same way he has anointed you to do your work in the hospital, the same way he's anointed, the surgeon and he anoints people who deal with your thoughts and your mind and traumas, to be able to work through that. And not talking about it, things that you don't talk about don't get healed. They don't.
That's, you know what, that's scripture right there. You know what I'm saying? We are healed by our testimonies, and when we're able to discuss it with somebody, a lot of people don't understand it, like you said, we have to put on that persona that we're okay. You know what I'm saying? And I can, truly relate to what you're saying, because as a child, like I was the middle child, and a lot of the things that you would go remiss to whatever I couldn't say, because everybody was looking okay, everybody thought it was okay, but it affected me differently. But I had to put that, like you say, being strong, a lot of people don't realize that you're still weak on the inside, like you are really, really crying on the inside.
Absolutely. I think we need to change the dynamic of what weakness is really strength.
It is.
It really, really is strength. And I think so often it's one of the things that has maybe even prompted me to write this next book, which will be like a journal. And it's funny that you said you're a middle child, because I always suffered with the syndrome of like, what about me type thing, right? I had an older brother who was like an overperformer, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like always, the star child, and he's
exactly.
The boy. My younger sister, who died in my arms, had cerebral palsy. So the level of attention and care and everything that she needed was, there. And I was kind of, again, the middle child who helped my mom a lot to take good care of my sister. And really now looking back, was like a caretaker, knowing how, and, when she gets her meds and all that kind of stuff. And when I think back at like what age I was doing that, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So I think we really need to change the view of strength, because weakness is strength, and we're allowed to be human is what it is. You know what I mean? We are not without feeling. And even though you may be able to go on, it doesn't mean that if I move on, that I'm not feeling in that moment. And what I've learned over the last couple of years, losing my dad, which really, like, losing my dad was and the listeners who will listen to this probably will understand but not understand, and I'll try to explain as much. But losing him, I found me.
Right.
And it uncovered so much of my childhood trauma. It was a death like no other. And no matter how many people I had lost, and again, I've lost my oldest son. I've had a tremendous amount of loss in my life, especially at an early age. But something about my dad's death hit me differently. And it literally was a floodgate of everything that I had suppressed over the years. So it was so overwhelming initially, because it was kind of like the uncovering of everything you have kept covered. It was like going into a basement that you stored everything in, and now you finally have to clean it up.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah. I can just imagine. Well, I mean, like I said, I can relate, because losing my father was pretty huge to me as well. And being that you have gone through all those traumatic and losses, a lot of people would say, oh, they would try to, like you said, put you in a box of grieving. Like, okay, you only supposed to grieve this amount alone, and even though, like, for us, it's been about 6 years. I know you said you lost your father in 2016. I lost mine in 2016, and it's been, those years, and it's like, it still feel like it's yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
I do. So, we had a conversation, because I think your dad's birthday just passed, and it was just Father's Day. My dad's birthday is June 16th, which always.
See, mine is June 15th. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So my grandfather's is the 17th. That's a whole nother.
Oh, wow.
So it's funny because I had a moment, and what I continue to learn through therapy and just learning who I am, and just also just being before God, is like, it is okay. There's no limitation on grief.
Right.
I miss my dad. You know what I mean? I loved him. Not just because he was my parent, he was also my person. I do think, and look, listeners may agree or disagree. I do think, in seasons of your life, normally you're closer to one parent or another.
Right.
My dad just understood me, if that makes sense. He had a very, and I think it's partially we were a lot alike in some ways and a lot different in others. But he understood me. And though I feel like he knew that I had a level of strength of what people had kind of put on me, I feel like he saw my weakness.
Right.
And losing him, it changed me. I always say that death has a way of making you look at life in a completely different way.
Right.
And his death, I had 18 months with my dad, and those were the best, literally the best months of getting to know him as a person and not just a parent.
Right.
Yeah, I just, you know what I mean? It was beautiful, sad, it was eye-opening. It was just so many different emotions. And when when someone leaves here, for the listeners who can relate, who has ever lost anybody to cancer, to watch someone leave here, it is a different experience. And the reason it changed my life is because it was almost like watching myself die.
Oh, wow.
Because we were so similar in how we lived.
Right.
My dad was ultimate provider, and I was, of course, a grown woman at that time, but just his focus until he literally took his last breath was on how we were going to be, how my mother was going to be taken care of. Like he was very sacrificial in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So much so that I feel like he didn't get to live, right? And there's a difference between being alive and really living life, right?
Right.
And watching him leave here and hearing him just tell those stories of like, oh, I thought I would have time. You know what I mean? I thought I would be able to, you fill in the blank. It gave me such a different perspective with where I was and how sacrificial I had been with the boys, how on hold my life had been. Like I literally, nobody would be hearing me have this conversation with you if I would, if I wouldn't have experienced that. So as much as I miss him, I also thank God that I had that experience. It's so like, you know what I'm saying? It's such a mix of emotion when you talk about grieving, because it's like, would I even be doing what I'm doing if my dad was still here?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's so good, because that's what, that I was talking about, is the impact of how, the present and the absent would make our lives be more successful, because that father's love, it's nothing like that father's love. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, I know I'm similar to my father. Well, I was similar to my father. And to be able, and now just listening to you, it just kind of like dawned on me that a lot of he understood me a lot more than anybody, as, and, his baby girl, like you would say, hey, baby girl, but and just sitting there thinking about his impact, you know what I'm saying? Of, my dad always tried to do things, and that, sacrificial manhood that they have to do, they have to be the provider, they have to be this, and they sacrifice so much that they don't get to do as much. And it does make you kind of be like, you know what, I'm going to do this for him, because of the simple fact that he didn't get a chance to do his dreams. And I know he would want me to do my dreams because that's what he sacrificed for. It's for us to, our father sacrificed for us to be able to have our own dreams and to do them, and to not do them will probably be a letdown for them. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, to me.
Yeah. I totally agree. So I'm tearing up and trying not to cry as you were talking. The promise that I made my dad on his deathbed was that I would live first and foremost, and that he would live through me. And I don't think at that particular moment, because the Exchange Place was not necessarily on my mind, in my mind, it was nothing that I was thinking about at that time.
Right.
But as you were talking, I'm just thinking, I feel like him leaving here, and even with the conversation that we're having, I had this like feeling come over me of just like, and I'm doing that. And I think anytime that I get to a wall in what I'm doing and what I'm pursuing, and I know its purpose, I remember the why behind that. And it's a combination why, if I'm honest. I mean, it's definitely a why for him is like, I want to make sure that when I leave here empty. Right. I want to make sure that everything that God has placed in me has been given to who it was supposed to be given to, has been shared on a platform or wherever I'm supposed to be. I want to make sure that I'm doing that thing, because I know that he left here with a level of regret. You know what I mean? A level of, I thought I would have the time. And now that I feel like I have the time, my dad never retired. He only retired because he was sick. He was up there. He could have retired, and he liked the fish, and it was just the things that he liked to do that I feel like you sacrifice for. And I was like, I'm gonna do a combination of both. And at that point, again, I feel like his death gave me life, because I don't know where I would be if I would have continued how I was living life. You know what I'm saying? Everything is so focused on, and again, we, of course, be a mom. I'm not telling anybody not to, but I'm telling you that there can be, people like to call it balance, but I always call it juggling. And I got this, my pastor always says, I want to be able to touch everything that means things to me. I don't want to get to the end of this journey and the people that I love the most got the least of me. Right. B, that the things that I was supposed to do died with me, you know what I mean? And that there's a graveyard full of potential of people saying, oh, when the kids get this age.
Exactly.
And we have to get better with that. We have to do better with that. There is a now and there's a today. And even if it's not all at once, that's what I gotta tell myself. I'm like, there's so much more I want to be doing. And pursuing, but at least I'm doing something, you know what I mean? And before, I wasn't doing anything for me that made me feel good. Fulfilling me, and not only fulfilling me, but fulfilling my purpose. Like I was missing it. You know what I mean? I was missing it completely.
Right. Yeah. And that's so good, because my mom always say it's a lot of dreams in the graveyard. And the thing about it, we always, like you say, put everything before us, and we say, okay, I'll do it later, or I'll do it, then. And this goes out to anybody that is dreaming anything. I did something, I talked with Darlene, my co-host, about procrastination. And we, as women, and as anybody, like to procrastinate, and procrastination is the devil to me. It is. So, I'm telling you. And so we have to, because like you said, your father was, it was a lot of things that he didn't get to accomplish. And we are take things and say, well, we'll do it later. And who knows if later gonna come, you know?
Yep.
And we have to do it now, you know.
Now is the
That's
time. It's never, you know what I've learned, and I continue to learn. I think for me, and maybe you can relate, and maybe the listeners also can relate, is that, you know, we always feel like, okay, well, not only will we get an opportunity to quote unquote do it later, but that we don't miss somebody in the midst of it. Like, that's kind of what
right,
I think about a lot, that, hey, if I'm not putting out the level of content, if we're not here recording, right, there's
hmm,
somebody who needs what we're giving,
exactly,
who is like, there's literally somebody waiting on you. You know what I'm
right,
saying? There's
right,
somebody waiting for you. And I know for some people that procrastination kind of eats it up, like, oh, well, somebody else will be there. But there are, like, we have a unique fingerprint, right?
right.
I'm obsessed with fingerprints, so I'll tell you why eventually. That's book number 3, but I'm obsessed literally with fingerprints, because we literally all have different fingerprints, not just one, but we have 10 fingerprints. So that means there's nobody in this world. There are what, 7 billion people in the world.
Right,
There is nobody who has what I have, right? There
right,
is nobody who has what you have. There is
exactly,
nobody for the listeners that have, you know what I mean, that thing.
right.
And I always tell my kids that can't nobody do you like you.
Whew.
And I remember both of them, you know, play sports and play basketball. And I used to tell them that every time they got on the court. And now they finally get it. I'm like, it doesn't matter how good that person is with what they do. They can do the exact same thing that you do. We both are podcasters, but we both called to 2 different groups of
Right,
people. So the
right,
people that you can touch, I can't touch. You know what
right,
I mean? The people that I
exactly,
can touch, you can't touch. Like, it is like, there are people that you are designed and called to. And when you really get that, like,
right,
so it's like, if you're out of position, not doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you are, you know what I mean, like slipping on your assignment, there's somebody waiting specifically for not only what you do, but the way that you do it.
right.
And what if those people weren't in place? Like, you know, well, you know, Pastor Darius Daniels, right? PD, love my pastor, but I often think about that. Like, what if literally he said, oh, I'm gonna just wait a little while to do Alicia Calling. I'm gonna just wait a little while to do
Right.
Daniels. I'm gonna just wait a little while. What happens to the people while you wait? You know what I'm saying? What happens
Exactly.
in those spaces? And it's just something for us to think about, that no, not the other person, but you, like,
Right.
you're assigned to that. And it's
Right.
something that only your fingerprints can put. You only have, you know how on the TV shows where they have the fingerprint hand, but
Uh-huh.
you only open that door, you only have access to those people. Like,
Right.
and they're waiting on you. So it's a level of responsibility that when we really get it, really understand, like your mama would say, you want to make sure them dreams are not in that
In the
graveyard,
grave,
but they
I'm
are
telling
in the
you.
dirt. Yeah.
Yes, that's so good because we have to, like you said, it's somebody that's waiting on you to figure out who you are. Like,
Yep.
in the Bible, Moses had to figure out who he was to go get the Israelites. So it's always somebody waiting for us to realize who we are. And the
Absolutely.
thing about it is never too late.
Oh
And
no, it's not. It's not. Today is the perfect day to start when they
right,
listen to this. Today is that day for somebody to say, you
right,
know, what book is sitting on your phone or sitting in your computer? What, you know what I'm saying? What creation that you're supposed to do? What podcast is not being heard because you don't have the courage to do it, or you feel like, oh, but me, I'm not sure. Trust me, we've all
right.
been there. I know what that feeling feels like. I know, even now being into the pot, some days I'm like, is this help? It's helping somebody. That's why I got to, it is helping somebody. Maybe I don't know everybody, somebody that is helping, but it's helping. And if we're not in our positions, who's missing out?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Who's missing out? So start the book, sis,
I'm
bro.
telling you, start it,
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, sometimes the thing about it, the car won't go until you start it. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if you just say, you know what, let me look up how to do a podcast, or let me look up, like I had said, we have to be prepared. A lot of people are praying for certain things, but they're not prepared for certain things that they're praying for. And they'll be praying for this and praying for a change. And God done gave it to you, but you're not preparing for it. You don't know when it's going to come, because you hadn't studied for it, or you hadn't did what you need to do for it. And so that's one of my things. That my big thing is like, look, if you praying for this, you need to be preparing for this. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to start something, get up. I mean, it's Google. I mean, Google can show you everything. It might not be all accurate. You got to make sure you look at the right thing, but it is stuff out there to show you. I'm telling some of that stuff. I be like, that ain't, no, that ain't accurate. So, yes. So I'm excited because, like you said, we have to, know that we have to figure out who we are. So somebody else can figure out who they are. Somebody else can be touched, can be blessed. Everybody that you reach, I can't reach. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't reach everybody. You can't reach, I can't reach it, So, but that's, so as a little girl, did you ever think that you would do something like this? Like, did you leave little breadcrumbs leading up to podcasting or anything like that?
I would say so. I sung my whole life. I only stopped singing, so I've always been behind. What I like to say, I've always not laugh at God in that sense, but I do feel like there's some connection. So I, again, sung all my life. If you would have asked me as a little girl what I was going to be, it would have 100% been a singer.
Right.
When I got pregnant with like I said, I lost my first son, but my oldest son, who is living, singing kind of went out completely of my mind, because in my head I was like, okay, well, I have to raise him. I knew, as most of us know, what the music industry looks like. I knew that was not really, at that particular time, I felt like that was not an option to remain in that. So I literally that my life kind of stopped for me when I had my oldest son, and my complete focus was always on them and how to get them in better school systems and better neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff. So I guess when you say, as a little girl, I always pictured myself behind a mic. I never thought I would be behind a mic or on platforms necessarily speaking. If I'm honest, I'm super shy. I know the listeners cannot tell that, but I'm definitely, I always say, they say, are you extroverted or introverted? I'm ambiverted, depending on how I feel. I'm definitely, my whole life, I've been empathic. Like, I feel people deeply always. So I could walk in a room since I was a little girl and be like, or now I'll be like, and I've learned how to, my famous thing that I ask people, instead of how are they doing, I always ask them how their heart is. And that's going to be the journal. How's your heart?
That's good.
Because it requires a different level of thought of like how you're doing. You kind of, you answer that, I'm good. So I never thought I would necessarily be talking in front of people. And it takes a lot for me to get in front of people and have conversations, especially larger groups of people inside. It may not look like it, y'all, but I definitely am, I have my scared moments. It usually starts in the beginning and then I start talking and it's okay.
It's okay.
The other thing that's funny about, and why I think I was so shut off to talking, is that when I was little, people used to tell me I talk too much. So,
but it was just me.
you know how like on your report card you have everything else and it's good, and then the what was it, S on the other side, or what was it, satisfactory and something.
Satisfactory. Unsatisfactory. You, I think.
And use at any time a you showed up on my report card, it was always about talking. Even though I wasn't talking in big groups, I was definitely a chit chatter. But I guess, you know, for a good enough reason. And throughout my life, I still remain that, you know what I mean? But as a little girl, I definitely saw myself behind a mic, but it was definitely on a stage singing a song, right. And not necessarily having a conversation. Yeah.
And that's so, like I said, I was like that too. I stopped talking as much because people would say, "Oh, you talk too much," you know. But I always, you know, as a little girl, I was this, like you. I would have definitely said I was gonna be a singer, like a professional singer, you know.
That's what I thought.
And
that's what
I have, you know, gone, you know, with you, you know, and I always wanted to work in the emergency room, and I always wanted to do this. So I always kind of touched on a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do, but just not what my passion was. And so when I found out that I could be behind the mic and I could be talking, and, you know, I was just like all for it, you know, because I always wanted to have like a talk show, you know, or something like that. But then people would say, "Oh, well, you know, you're not proper," because I'm from the country. So, hey, you know, but it was always something. And so I just shut down. And a lot of people, that could be the reason why a lot of people don't talk, you know, because they've been, you know, categorized as, "Oh, you're talkative," or "You talk too much," or, you know, or whatever. "You ask too many questions." You know, that's what I used to get. "You always asking questions," because I'm trying to understand. Like, I'm trying to literally get a good understanding that way, because the Bible said, "And all you get understanding." You know?
Understanding. Listen, I ask so many questions, and I'm laughing while you're saying that I think it probably at times drives people crazy. But I also, like you said, I want to get understanding. But what I found, even in professionally, it helps people work through their own thoughts that they haven't thought about. When you know, thought-provoking questions it forces you to think about things that you probably wouldn't think about. So talking for me is my superpower, if I'm honest. It is the thing that I do well. One of my girlfriends always says, "Oh, if we go somewhere, it doesn't matter where we are. If I am having a conversation," she's like, "Oh, this is a deep one." I'm like, every time I have a conversation, it probably is going to be a deep one.
Right.
I love that. And I like you, I find that, that's why I asked that question, how's your heart? Even as strangers sometimes, is like people just want to talk. And sometimes they don't have a place to unload feelings and thoughts and things that they need. And everybody doesn't have friends, you know what I mean? That type of friends, or those type of friends that make them feel safe enough to have those conversations. So that's my job while I'm here, is to provide a space that makes people want to share the things that they probably wouldn't normally share, the things that they wonder if it's just them, or am I the only person that feels like that, or am I the only person that has experienced that? And the answer is no. There are people, and you will be so surprised once a room full of people start talking how much more similar we are than not. You know what I mean? And it's like, no matter your race, gender, it does not matter. We are more alike than we are different if we have more conversations. And though I work in technology, you know, professionally, though I love like the internet and all of that, I hate that it has taken a level of communication sometimes away. And we, you know, the keyboard bandits that are, you know, on their keyboards and kind of typing away, but without understanding and being able for both people to get understanding and kind of bridge the gap of like, hey, I feel this way, but why? And, you know, give explanation, because we all have had different experiences in life. We all are looking through different lenses And you have to leave room for that. And sometimes people are like, you know, I'll put up a clip from the show or something, and people are kind of like, oh, well, you know, why do you allow people? I want to hear people's, you know, side. That may not be my experience, but I want to know their experience, because I want to understand. When you know more about people, it gives you so much understanding to like know why they function the way that they function. You know what I mean? And my kids always laugh at me because I'll be like, no, that's because, and I'll go back deep to something that's going on with a person. Like, no, because it's showing in their actions and I see it. You know what I'm saying? I see it and I understand you. And then I'm able to navigate those relationships better, because when somebody understands you and gets you, it's like, oh no, this is not personal. This has something to do with
exactly. And if a lot of people get that understanding, I think the world will be a whole lot better. You know what I'm saying?
It would be so much better if we could have this level of conversation with one another, male and female, you know what I mean? To really be able to have understanding, it would be a better place, because sometimes people are saying the same thing, but people are not listening. I've learned to, which I haven't always been, y'all. I'm going to look. That's what it is. I was not always a good listener, but now I listen so well that people are sometimes like, "You there?" I'm like, "I'm here. I'm listening. Here. Go ahead. I'm here. I'm listening." But I listen to digest what is really going on and what you're saying, to even be able to repeat it back to you. Like, are you saying
exactly?
So much stuff gets lost in talking sometimes, and I know people scream communication, but I would challenge that for our listeners. It's not just communicating well; it is comprehending well.
Oh my God. Girl, you just don't understand. We are so much alike. So I'm sitting here listening at you, because I wasn't like a great listener back then. And I have trained myself where, because, you know, some people just listen just to speak. You know what I'm saying? They're not listening to understand what people are saying. They just listen to respond back. And I know a lot of people, when they get ready to argue, they, you know,
child. Yeah.
Especially, you know, with your spouse or whatever, you just, you know, let them say, but I'm going to still say what I won't say. I don't care what he said, you know, or whatever. And so it's so good when you say comprehend. You know, a lot of people, and it is so crazy, because I just did a podcast about understanding. And I said a lot of this, what we're saying, I said a lot of this on there. And I was saying how people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond, you know, just so they can have a response. And I found myself, a lot of people would be like, you ain't listening to me. I am listening. I am comprehending. First off, it's a bigger thing than just listening, you know what I'm saying? Because some people can listen and go in one ear and out the other. But I'm listening, I'm processing it, and I'm applying it so I can be able to, you know, respond well, you know, because I don't want to just respond just to say something, you know.
I know that's right. I'm always listening to for clarity. That's where like you said, you're a questioner. That's where questions come in, because sometimes somebody is saying something, they're kind of like screaming it to the top of their lungs, and I'm like, wait, do you mean? Because you know what I mean? Because how people say things, they think they are, again, art, and I'm sure they are articulating it to the best of their ability, but how I'm receiving it, we all come from different upbringings. We all have, like I always say, we all have different lenses, and we're processing information through the lens that we have, you know what I mean? And the experiences we have and all that kind of stuff. And to really be able to comprehend, you want clarity before anything. I want to be able to clarify what you're saying, to be able to respond in the right way to begin with. So it's more, when people say communication, it's like, yeah, you could talk, but if there's no understanding, there's no comprehension and no action after that, you know what I mean? Of like, okay, now I hear you, you know what I mean? We're saying this, we're both clear on what we're both saying. And now there can be resolution, there can be, can I meet you halfway? Because now we're clear on what it is that we're even talking about. And sometimes people are not. They are not.
They, I'm telling you, some people is like pulling teeth, honey. They don't understand you, and that goes back to what we were saying about our fathers. Our fathers was the only one that kind of really understood us at that age. And now, because like with me, like I said, I stopped talking to for a while because of the simple fact that people will always say this, you're always talking, or whatever. But my dad understood Kiana. You know what I'm saying? And for him, it was like you know, okay, I know what you mean. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And it ain't it's and it's always good to have somebody that really understands you. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
So, you know,
Absolutely.
so yeah. But okay, so when you decided to do your podcast, like what steps that you had to kind of like, what was the most challenging steps, if that
Whew.
you know
The most challenging steps. Um, the most challenging step was the first step, if I'm honest. Not just the vision of knowing what I was supposed to do. It was doing it alone, if I'm honest. Uh, I knew what I was supposed to do. I had, but I didn't want to go along like most of us, right?
right.
It is untraveled territory. You know what I mean? To do
Hmm.
things that are outside of your comfort zone, outside of what you know what I mean. Even though you saw it, it feels uncomfortable, to say the
Right.
least. So my most difficult step was actually doing this by myself.
Right.
And it took, I had three other people who were supposed to be part of the exchange place. I really wanted the dynamic of kind of two women with two different lenses, two men with two different lenses.
Right.
Um, and as much as I wanted that, what's funny is I'm so glad it didn't work like that. Now I am, let me say that. But the hardest step was feeling like I have to do this alone.
Right.
But my pastor, who's no longer here, God rest his soul, Reverend Ron Christian, he told me something that never has left me, and I don't think it ever will, is that sometimes we're called to go first, and there will be times that we are able to come back and get those people that we're supposed to come back for.
Right.
And then there are people that just are not ever supposed to be on the ship that you're sailing and go to the level that you're supposed to go to. And that for me was something. I lost him the year before. I lost my dad. He was, of course, at that time a spiritual dad, and that was just one of many things that he told me that always stuck with me. But that was the most challenging thing of like doing it by myself,
Right.
which ended up not being by myself. Do you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And I just feel like God wants our yes. He wants to know that we are willing to go.
Right.
And he always gives us help along the way. He has blessed me tremendously with people for the show, behind the scenes, people to
Right.
encourage me. I mean, there's so many people, and shout out to all of them who have just helped
Hmm.
me, probably that don't even know that they have helped me. Even you being one of them, we need that along the way. You know what I mean? We need to know that we're impacting, inspiring,
Right.
and affecting other people. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. It was hard to start, and
Yeah.
start alone and believe in me. So often we have limiting beliefs,
Hmm.
um, of like knowing in our heart of our hearts, like way deep down, that we're supposed to be doing something.
Right.
But you know what I mean? That all the things that go through our minds, will it work? Will I fail? Well, you know what I mean? Is it going to be worth it? Are people going to listen? Are people going to come? And I started the podcast. I was like, when I really started releasing episodes, I remember my goal was, I was just like, I'm gonna do 2 a month. If I could
Right.
just do 2 a month, right? And I'll do them from my home. Again, I work with technology. I was like, I'm gonna figure out technology. That's not gonna be my
Right.
hard part. I'll work out the first two shows And then I'll see how they do. And the first show that I dropped, it was so great. Like, response wise, I can't even say it was a great show. I need to go listen to it because it only has audio. It doesn't have any visual because that's where I was. But I was like, listen, I'm going to do it. But the response was so great that it was like, when was the next one? When was the next one? And I got pushed into my purpose,
right.
if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Where so many people were like, okay, what you doing? 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 And it made me accountable. It made me even more consistent and disciplined. And it's been up from there. Like now
right.
it's just where the show is actually on a break now, but still putting out content that people may have not seen that I have recorded, and and just getting prepared for what's next. So
right.
the first step is the hardest. But if we worry about, I don't know, I feel like somebody's gonna need to hear this. If we just worry about taking one step at a time and not the end goal, I just feel like before you know it, you're gonna look up and be like, how did I get here? Because that's how I feel. I feel like from that first show, I'm not sure about all the stuff that happened in the middle or how I even got to the place that I am now. But every time I start focusing on, what's up and around the corner and upstairs and what, type thing, I get overwhelmed. So I worry about the step. What's the next step? And what's the next step? And before you know it, you done gone down and around the corner and up, and you on the other level, and now you're trying to figure out how to navigate that one. So I would tell somebody to just start and then worry about the steps. Not necessarily the destination.
Right. Oh, that's good. I like that. You said something that was really, really, good. What your pastor said, the one, rest in peace, him. He said, you can go back to get others. And I was thinking about Harriet Tubman. I don't know why she just came to mind of how when she got out, you know what I'm saying? And she just came back to get others,
I love that analogy.
It was like, wow. And it just kind of hit me because, she couldn't take nobody at that time. She had to, go figure out what she needs to do, how she needs to do it, and then come back. And let me go get the people that really, really helped me, or the people that I love, the people that I know is gonna be appreciative to going where I'm going. And that just makes so much sense to me. I was like,
yeah, you just blessed me, because I'm thinking about even the movie that they did with Harriet Tubman, and it's like she had to go and make sure things were set up the right way, that she knew a safe way to get them even out.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? She had to make connections and almost build what needed to be built for people to even come across. So that, what you said is so powerful, because now I'm thinking about even when she went back in the movie, there was a portion where she wanted to bring her sister, and her sister was not ready to go.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So I love that you said that, and I'm gonna use that, because that gave me so much. Like I could see and envision exactly what you mean, and the analogy. Like right now, I'm over here like just literally blew my mind, and I'm about to go watch that movie. Probably not tonight. I know. A little late, but I'm definitely going to go watch that movie, because that blessed me, and that just makes me miss my even more, because I love that I'm still feasting off of words that he gave me. I mean, years and years and years ago. He died in 2015, and I'm still feasting off of things that he told me that are now make more sense now, where I am.
That's the thing, we get a lot of the stuff that we were said, that was said to us back then, is like, I don't know, for me, it's like hit me like a light bulb, like, dang, that's what it meant. I remember I remember when I was in third grade, and they used to say that I didn't use my time wisely. And you know, in third grade, I was like, what that means? Like I'm doing stuff. And I thought about that thing. It was like, okay, so it didn't hit me until I got like I want to say the ninth grade. Using your time wisely, meaning that, okay, if I got time, I can do this instead of wasting time. I can go ahead on and do my homework. So when I get home, I can just play my instrument. I was in the band, you know, I was a drum major of the band and all that stuff. And I was a band geek, okay? On top of singing and all that stuff, you know, I was in community choirs and all that stuff. So my time wisely was like, if I had time, I'm gonna do my homework. That way, when I get home, all I can focus on is music. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. And so and I said that because we get so many people that pour into our lives from back in the day, and we think about certain stuff that is like, dang, that's what they need. Oh my God, you know, like I mean, why come I couldn't get that then? You know what I'm saying? And
because it wasn't meant for you then. It makes more sense now, and now what you're doing is going to make more sense. And like I said, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the seeds that were sown in my life, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, of what they were even speaking. I know for sure that my pastor, who's no longer here, I know that he knew. There's still some, I still got a couple of words that I'm still scratching my head, but I'm sure throughout my life it will be something that speaks to me. And that's the great thing about the word of God. It's the living word, right?
I'm telling you, the word of God is so powerful. And even now, as I'm learning the word of God, it's like I'm learning it all over. You know, I've always been in church. You know, I got siblings that are pastors and ministers and missionary. My grandma was a missionary and my aunt's missionaries and all that stuff. And, you know, of course, I went to church and song and all that stuff. And you hear these things that people say that, okay, some people might say they're cliches. But no, baby, when you have an encounter with God, they ain't cliches. You know what I'm saying? They are really, really, I mean, when you think about it, they are really real and they are true, because that stuff, God bring that stuff to pass. And it's like,
oh, absolutely.
Ooh, it's like, I'd be like, oh my God, that's what you meant, God. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I remember having this like mind-blowing experience. I had gotten really, really sick. This is before my dad died. And I remember I spent seven days in the hospital in room 107C. I'll never forget this. But I remember during that time that God showed me why he has so many names. And it's like, you don't understand when people say God's a healer until he's healed you, right? You don't understand that he's a provider until he's provided for you.
I'm telling you.
So there's something, you know what I mean? You don't know that he's peace until he's giving you peace that surpasses all understanding. So there is something so amazing, I feel like, that God does. It's like, I gave it to you, but you're not going to understand this until you're supposed to understand it.
Exactly.
And I love it. It's like, I appreciated all those names. I'm like, why God, of course, me asking questions, why is there so many names? Why you gotta say so many names? But again, you know, he will give you understanding.
Right. And it's so, you know, like I said, with him, with his name, and he say, I am, and it's like, you know, you fill in the blank.
I am.
Right, yeah. I am. And he comes in that time when you need it, you know. A lot of people, I'm telling you, it's so many people that are lost in the dark because they are not studying the word of God and they're not getting that encounter. You know, yeah, we go to church and get that little, you know, we get feeling, ooh, hallelujah. But it's different when you can understand the word of God and be able to apply it to your life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It is so totally different. And like for you and for me, having that understanding where we're going and the experience that we had from back in the day to bring us back to this place. You know, if I told you everything I went through, we'll be on here all night. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it, God has really, really taken me back and bringing me forward. You know, it's almost like a second chance where, you know, when you get all that traumatic experience and all that off your chest, and you get to talk to somebody and let them know that, hey, this is what I went through. You know what I'm saying? And this is who I am.
You know what I call it, and I know the listeners, depending on, you know, where they are or whatever, but I always say God will spin a block for you. He will. The redeemer of time, but I call it he will spin the block for you, and he will literally bring it full circle and around. Like, I think, you know, I always used to think that we could miss stuff, and, you know, let's not get too deep in missing stuff, but I always feel like God is a redeemer of time, and it's not that it's not like he gives us more time, right? But in the time that we do have left, like, he's gonna blow our minds. And we just, like you said earlier, we just have to prepare for that level. And that is what I have been doing. I've been literally probably in the last 2.5, 3 years, I have never done this much for me. I have never felt this close to God.
Right.
Even in the times that I necessarily can't hear him or feel him, or it doesn't feel like everything is going the way that I thought it would go. But there is a level of peace, and there's also a level of desire to be in his presence. Do you know what I mean? To be in places and spaces where I know not only is he present, but his people are present. You know what I mean? So, just keep trusting him. His plan is never going to look like how you thought it was going to look. I would be lying to you if I said it would. It definitely doesn't. But it does work for your good. And when you look back on your life or on certain situations, I know that God was working on my behalf. You know what I mean? I definitely understand that. And we wouldn't be having this conversation if he wasn't, honestly.
Well, that's so good. That is so good, Miss Debōrah. I'm going to end it here because we'll be here all night. I'm telling you, because the thing about it, you know, I could talk about God all night, period. You know, because of the way that he has came in and changed up everything for me. And, you know, and Pastor Daniel's really, really impacted my life. I started watching him just, you know, I don't even think it's been a whole year, but I caught him on Bishop T.D. Jakes. And, you know, he was on there and I was like, oh, wow, this man is so, like, he's just so good, you know. And for him to have came in and just to listen at him and the way that he explains everything is just kind of like brings everything to light. And so if I go back to, you know, the let everybody know, hey, this is real. This encounter with God is real. It's just so totally different. So, but all right, I am not going to hold you any longer. I want you to let everyone know where they can find you, Debōrah Faith, and where they can find your book and everything. I just want you to let everybody know all your websites and all those social media, because we want to get the message out there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
You know, a lot of people don't even understand that you can go somewhere and you can talk or listen to something that you can relate to, and you'll be able to be free. You know, a lot of people are in bondage because they don't want to talk and they want to say, no, I don't want nobody in my business. But guess what? If it's hurting your soul, then you need to be able to talk it and let it out. So just let everybody know where they can find Debōrah Faith at.
Okay, I will definitely do that. So first, for the podcast, if you guys want to tune in and tap into the podcast, it's called TheXchange Place. Look, let me move to the side. It's TheXchange Place podcast. We are on all streaming platforms. So that is from YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We are on TikTok. We are on Instagram, Facebook, all TheXchange Place. And you can feel free to, connect with us on there. Most of the time it's me that you're talking to. Sometimes it's somebody else helping out until we get our team built. If you want to connect with me, because I also am working on some things, like I mentioned, there will be a journal that's coming out called How's Your Heart? Which is going to be really good. I actually created this for myself because I journal a lot on my laptop, and I was just like, I really need a book, but all the books that I was trying to find wasn't giving me what I need in the way that I journal. So that'll be coming in October. If you guys want to look up for my book, it is www.theexchangeplacemarket.com. As well. And if you just want to connect to me on Instagram, I am at Faith 100578, and on Facebook I'm Debōrah Faith Perry. That's who I am. And on TikTok I am Faith Debōrah. The opposite. But yeah, reach out, man. If there are any future podcasters, I have a podcasting guide that I hope blesses somebody. There was so much that I had to learn in such a short period of time that I just felt like there's a easier way to do that, to kind of organize your content creation and just give you some hints. And again, it's for beginners, kind of setting up and things to think about to sustain, not only create a podcast, because that's the first step, like I said, but be able to sustain one and really, really knowing your why is what's going to help you. So you guys can, check me out. I am there. And thank you so much for having me. I love it here.
I thank you for coming. I tell you, this has been such a journey. And like you say, creating content, that's one of the main things. If you can find your voice, and I'm telling my audience now, if you can find your voice and you can create content, that is the most beautiful thing in the world. Being able to know that who you are in God is amazing, within itself. And to know your purpose and know your passion. And I always ask God, I knew it was more. I was like, God, I know it is more. It got to be more to this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And God said, I got you,
The great thing about purpose, I feel like it continues to unfold. And I just want to, I want to speak this into your life, that the podcast is only the beginning. It is the first step of your yes. But it's not the end of God's yes for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
What he's doing. So I always feel like our purpose, we grasp a hold of like your why, but the development and the unfolding of that and what that looks like continues to change in, different seasons of life. Like I always know that I probably will, and I don't want to say always, because I definitely don't know that God. Let me just be clear. But I do know that I have my voice, and I do know that I will be speaking, whether or not it's always going to be in a podcast form. I can't say that. And I am, I trust God so much that I believe as our purpose unfolds that I will just, I will navigate that. I'm not going to be kicking and screaming like before, because I was, but there's so much more ahead. So I'm honored to be here first and foremost. But I'm proud of you. I'm proud of
Thank you. Thank you.
And there is so much more ahead.
Well, I received that, because I know that God wouldn't have brought me here to leave me, and I do receive everything that like you said, the purpose is unfolding. And
it's unfolding.
And it's like, girl, if I go into it, you'll be like, oh my God. So, but we're going to end here. I just want to thank you again, Debōrah, for being on here. and gracing us with your beautiful presence. And if you want to, you can go to www.q.com. I'm going to try to make sure I have all your information on there, so I can make sure. We want to get her book out there. So I want to go to www.qforchrist.org, and you can go to my page. I'm gonna make sure I pinned it on Q for Christ on Facebook and on YouTube. And I want you to make sure that you bless her. And we want to help each other out. That's the main thing, is helping each other out, helping us get, move forward, getting the word out there. So I thank you again. Thank you for anybody that has liked, shared, comment, what you've done. If you want to give your life to Christ, all you have to do is just believe that Jesus Christ died for us, for our sins, and let him know that you are ready to give your life to him. All right, we are going to say good night. We love you. I love you with the love of Christ, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, bye.